Welcome to the Book Brothers podcast. This is our 11th episode. I should know that.
Something like that, yeah.
Our 11th or 12th
Sounds good.
episode. And I am Books Too Big, or Boots Too Big. I'm Books Too Big on TikTok, but you can find me Boots Too Big everywhere else. With my co-host, as always, Mr. David Cardoso,
Yes,
aka
David.
Professor Pixel,
Yeah, I got Professor
on
Pixel
YouTube.
on my YouTube. Yep.
Check out David's YouTube. David does some really fun videos about science. If you have kids at home, or if you yourself just want a nice, easy explanation of how the universe works.
Yep. Everything about science,
David's your guy.
universe. Yep. Hopefully I can get into schools eventually. That's my goal. I think it's really friendly for kids, but it's family friendly, so it's really fun. So I've
Yeah, that'd be
enjoyed
great.
making all animations. So.
But we collaborate on this show together. I have a movie podcast, but this is our book podcast. And we do our little book club podcast. And today we're discussing the 1994 book Permutation City by author
Yes.
Greg Egan. Here's the summary. Permutation City pushes science fiction's mission to its limit, making sense of the world as a rational, material, and ultimately malleable system, even at the cost of cherished illusions. In this future, consciousness can be digitized, creating copies that live on virtual environments. Paul Durham endlessly experiments with versions of himself, even as those copies resist or self-terminate, while Maria de Luca loses herself in the Autoverse, a cellular automation? Well, no, am I reading that wrong?
Sounds
Automaton
right.
universe, excuse me,
Okay.
governed by mathematical rules. Durham tempts her to seed new life into this digital cosmos, but with a catch. Once inside, escape is impossible. The novel asks unsettling questions. Is a copy really you? Is immortality freedom or entrapment? Is Egan's work forces readers to confront what identity, reality, and eternal life might mean when existence itself becomes software. I really butchered that. I'm sorry, but the
All
gist of
good.
it is,
Pretty good.
it's a big philosophical question of what does it really mean to be human. And we've done several books on this show where we've sort of touched on that, right? But I feel like
Yeah. It's basically just an artificial world, and people can make copies of themselves. So the question of
yeah.
existence comes up. Yeah.
And I had some questions that were sort of cleared up by some of the summaries and notes I found on the internet. But I wanted to talk it through with you, David, because I was a little confused about the old. Actually, you know what? First off, let me ask you, because you finished it before me, which is funny because I
Yeah.
bought it,
I'm just
started it
waiting for
before
you to
you.
finish it. Thanks for that, by the way. No,
Yeah, you're welcome. What was your perception of this book before you read it? Like when you read the blurb on the back of the. By the way, did you rent it or buy it, or how did you?
I bought it on Amazon. Yeah.
What was your impression of the story before you read it? Just after you'd read the blurb on the back cover.
Impressions. I mean, I thought it would. I don't know. I guess I just thought it was going to be like. I think it took a while for that idea to take hold, where because we see the Autoverse for a while, but the beginning is kind of confusing for me.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard to follow initially, and we don't really see those copies and kind of like his existential stuff until like halfway. We start to see where he's going with it like later on. So it took a while for that summary to kind of take shape. Once it did, it was pretty cool, but it just takes a while, I think. I don't know what you thought, Adrian, with the beginning of the book. It was kind of hard to follow initially.
Yeah. So to set it up, because I was confused too. I was intrigued.
Yeah.
The writing is so good in this book. It's like straightforward, but not too straightforward, and like the dialogue is great.
Yeah.
I was kind of like I was pleasantly surprised at how good the dialogue was. And you can tell right off the bat that he was gonna like try to explain some very high level concepts
Yeah.
of mathematics and that sort of thing. So to set it up, so there's copies, right? Who are, the VR version of clones.
Yeah.
I'll just read my notes here. Whole brain emulations that feel subjectively real. They run on distributed computing, the QUIPS exchange, and can be run at different speeds or paused/snapshotted. Copies have memories of their originals at scan time, and they're morally and legally ambiguous in the world of the novel. Then there's the economics angle, which is running conscious copies cost processing power. Rich copies can run fast and lavish VR. Poor copies run extremely slowly or only as snapshots. This creates persistent class dynamics in virtual afterlives. And then there's the Autoverse, a cellular automaton artificial life project in the book. It's a tiny simulated chemistry where simple life, Autobacterium lombardi, is coaxed to evolve. It's important thematically, emergence, determinism, and plot-wise, as a planet, quote unquote, is seeded into the larger experiment. So yeah, so there's quite a few layers to the different
Yeah.
mediums that they use in this story. But that those are probably the main ones.
Yeah, I
And
think like just to add to the beginning, like I think one of the hard things about it was Paul Durham. He's like the one of the main characters. He's basically super wealthy guy. But from the beginning we see, because if you notice, Adrian, too, like those chapters in the beginning, we see him he's like talking with his copies, like from the very beginning. It takes place in like the novel takes place in 2045 to like 2050, 51, something like that. So it takes
yeah,
place like 25 years in the future.
yeah,
But we see like in the past also we hear about this Paul Durham. He's like this super wealthy guy, but he is talking to his own copies in this universe, this Autoverse it's called.
yeah.
So we get that from the very beginning, but that was kind of confusing because he just throws you into it and he's like talking with one of his copies. And that was pretty confusing because there's also we hear later on that like he might have lost his mind. He might have been like bipolar or something like that.
Right.
And so he might have been in a psych ward for a little bit, but then I guess when he got out, then he started this Autoverse thing and he created copies of himself. Now he's talking to these copies. And so we see him having these kind of discussions with his copies, and some of the copies like struggle with their own existence and some are okay with it. And so like that was pretty weird because you get that throughout the book, the first half. That was kind of hard because I was like, okay, what is this? He just got throws you into this, and you kind of learn about the backstory as you go about that. Like, oh, he may have lost his mind, and then he created these copies. That was pretty weird. But yeah, I don't know what you thought about that. Like, that was pretty like disorienting for me at first because like, what is this? Because like when you said get this book Permutation, I was like, oh, it sounds interesting, and then I'm like, okay, we're just thrown into this like this kind of weird philosophical talk with these copies, and you're kind of just expected to figure it out for yourself. So that was kind of difficult at first.
Yeah, Egan does not hold your hand too
Mm.
much in this story.
Yeah.
So which I appreciated, but like you, I was also a little confused. I was like, is this a copy of
Mhm.
Paul Durham or is this the Paul
Yeah.
Durham?
Yeah.
But let's get into really quick the secondary main character, Maria,
Yeah.
who's the
Maria.
Autoverse expert who designs the seed world for Paul Durham, which she only takes on this project because she needs the money, because
Yeah.
she wants to scan her mother,
Uh-huh.
and so that she can essentially live indefinitely
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
VR world. And it's funny because her mother, this book takes place kind of like 30, 40 years from now. So
Mhm.
her mother is like an elderly woman who is a millennial because she talks about how she grew up in the 90s. So I thought that was kind of a funny little detail that he had. It's like, oh yeah, my mother who was growing up in the 90s. I'm like,
Yeah. I think
oh,
she
so
had
she's a
cancer. Didn't she
millennial.
have? I think she had cancer or something like that in the story. I think
Yeah,
that's what
she
it
had
was.
cancer,
Yeah.
and
She's
that's the
terminal.
big that's her big emotional reason for
Yeah.
taking on this project, which is
Yeah.
going to be fraught
Yeah,
with
wasn't
difficulty.
she like Maria? Wasn't she like super interested in like the Autoverse? She was like she was designing stuff in this world or something, and like she ended up designing this these like creatures or something, and then like I guess Paul hears about her later on, and he sees that she's like designing this weird like bacteria or creature, and he sees a promise with it because she can make like almost this she could design creatures within this fake artificial world, and he was interested in that. But yeah, like you said, like she became more interested in the money after to save her mom, basically. Um,
Right. And I think the creatures you're referring to are the ones that we find out about towards the end. It's those insects
yeah,
that are,
the Ambertians, they're
yeah,
called.
Lambert, and they are conscious. They are
Yeah,
not even conscious. That's not even the right word.
they're
What's
sentience, conscious,
they're sentient. Yeah,
sentient. Yeah,
they have their own culture. They have their own beliefs. They have their
yeah.
own,
It
you
was
know.
pretty interesting. Yeah, there were the insects too. He describes them kind of like the insect-like, and they I don't know if they talk about like their beetles or their flies or
That's what they
something.
sounded like. They
They're
sounded like they were
black.
a beetle-like creature.
Tiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're sentient. So that was pretty interesting. I was like, he can make a whole novel on that. That would actually be interesting to learn about like these weird insects that he designed in this book. I thought it was pretty cool.
I'm
That
sure
gets
there's
thrown in at the end, but I was like, he could do a whole story on those
I'm sure
creatures.
there's some sci-fi novel out there that is about sentient insect-like
Yeah, insect
beings,
creatures.
somewhere
Yeah.
in the
It was
universe.
pretty cool. Yeah.
But the main thing I wanted to talk to you about, David, the main emotional core, or excuse me, philosophical core of the story is the dust theory,
Yeah.
right?
That
So
was
just
pretty
to
cool.
give some
Yeah.
context, the basic idea is that there's no principal difference between a physical universe and the mathematical structure that describes it. If a structure is mathematically self-consistent, it exists in the same sense. If you accept that, then any sufficiently detailed description that encodes conscious states contains those conscious experiences, regardless of whether it's being run on a machine. This is similar in spirit to Max Tegmark's mathematical universe / ultimate ensemble ideas, which I've never heard of that before, but that sounds interesting. Mm-hmm. The consequences of this is that deleting a copy doesn't necessarily end its conscious existence. The pattern may be initiated elsewhere among the dust of possible mathematical configurations. Paul Durham pushes this to an operational plan. Manufacture a mathematical configuration that is so self-consistent that his copies persist in it. I just read that tonight, so I didn't fully understand. I'll be honest, I didn't fully grasp the dust theory until I started reading about it. So what were your thoughts on that? Like, did that make sense to you
on
when
the
you were
dust
reading
theory?
it?
It was a little confusing. I think it becomes more clear to me after a while. I think what he's talking about is like consciousness, because he's thinking about like, he talks about how everything is just dust. Like Paul Durham has this idea that like our consciousness, like we're just pieces of dust, and everyone's consciousness is unique. And like dust, we are here for a little while and then we go away. And so that was his idea, was like the dust theory. And he feels like it was proven basically once the Autoverse comes online and that there's actually creatures and that this world exists, then he feels like his theory was proved that everyone is dust, everything is dust. We're here for a little while and then we leave. The human experience. But like that was his guess, was like the dust theory, that everything is dust. We're only here for a little while and then we go away. And he feels like it was proven, I guess, in some ways. Yeah, I don't know. It was pretty interesting. That was probably like the biggest thing from the book, I thought, was like the dust theory, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought that's like a unique, like, it's almost like a spiritual way to explain our existence in a way, both us humans and like even artificial intelligence. It's like, if there was artificial intelligence out there that, like, we have Chat GPT now, like, would Chat GPT subscribe to this theory, be like, oh, we're all just dust, and like I'm even dust, and like, does it experience our existence in that way as well? Like, I don't know. It was interesting.
Well, that what the dust theory reminds me of is the very short sci-fi novel Solaris.
Okay.
Did you ever read Solaris by
I did not read Solaris, no.
So in that book, just to give you a quick summary, a scientist travels to a research station orbiting this distant planet called Solaris, whose vast, seemingly sentient ocean has baffled scientists for decades. I don't want to spoil anything, but basically the gist is the ocean is like a sentient thing in that novel. Okay. And I don't want to say more because I don't want. It's a really short book. You should honestly read it. It's like it's like 100 pages or something like that. It's very short. Okay. But yeah, I like the idea of the dust theory. Once I understood it, I appreciated the idea of the dust theory.
Okay.
But
well, actually, that reminds me. Sorry, but that reminds me of like, because I talked about like other science ideas before, like in Cosmos, like talks about like bees, how bees dance and communicate with one another.
Right.
And I feel like animal consciousness is a thing. Like maybe science in like 500 years will find out like, oh, all animals are conscious too, and that's like going to be part of the dust theory. Because like in Permutation City, the Lambertians are like aware, and so like I think that kind of proved the dust theory to him, is like, oh, everything is conscious in some ways. Like things are just more sentient than others. And so like maybe we'll find that out, that animals like cats, dogs, other animals are all conscious in their own way. Just not as aware as we are, but everything has a type of awareness to it. So that for me was kind of like something with the dust theory too, that everything has its own kind of awareness,
He's very liberal with the idea that like anything can be conscious and sentient, I think.
Yeah.
And
have you seen Everywhere, Everything All at Once?
I have. I watched it in the theater.
Did you see the one, the scene with rocks, where they're just rocks on another planet, and they're conscious rocks? That kind of reminds me of like the dust theory. I was like, is that what the dust theory is? Like we're all just like little rocks in space. Even rocks are conscious, or like
Well, I mean, that makes me think about the sort of multiverse type of idea where, and there's and I think we've talked about this before, but there's a universe where you and I are doing a podcast about I don't know, coin collecting or something. And there's a universe where you're a frog, and there's a universe where I'm a rock or a slice of bacon. You know what I mean? I don't know why I'd be a slice of bacon, but that's the kind of the idea, is that there's like this infinite amount of universe, or alternate realities out there, and that's obviously that's a theory that people talk about, but there's
Yeah,
no
yeah.
like concrete
If
that.
you were bacon, would you be extra crispy or extra like soggy or greasy?
I'd be thick cut pepper bacon. Yeah.
Like, okay.
I like a good thick cut
All
pepper
right, all right.
bacon.
Crispy or
Um,
not crispy?
oh no, it had to be crispy.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
it
That's
had to be
good.
crispy.
At least you're crispy. All right.
Realistically, with my luck, I'd come back as a can of spam. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
um,
You can make it crispy, by the way, spam.
you can make it crispy. You're not wrong about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so okay, tell me this though, David. When did it start to click for you? What part of the book did it? I'll tell you mine, but I want to hear yours first. Because you texted me at one point and you said, "Oh wait, this is actually pretty good." Like, it took a little while to get going, but at
Yeah.
what point in the book were
Yeah.
you when you texted me that?
Probably, like probably somewhere on the halfway or like maybe like a third through the book. Because like once I saw that, I think when there's a scene where Paul, it's been a minute now since I think I finished like a month ago. But there's a scene where Paul visits Maria and he like entices her. He like says, "Oh, I'm gonna pay you a bunch of money and I want you to come on board and make these creatures in this world." And she has a discussion with him with the copies, and she talks about her mom. I think from that scene on, it was like, oh, this is getting pretty good. Because then I saw where this was going, and I saw that she's going to make these creatures for him. It kind of like all connected. And then it started connecting with the other side characters in there too, which we haven't talked about yet.
Yeah.
But then there was Pierre. Pierre is a side character, and Thomas. I think Thomas's name David Hawthorne or something like in a previous. Because I feel like. There's someone named David Hawthorne. I think it was Thomas. Maybe that was
I don't
Pierre.
remember David Hawthorne, if I'm being
Okay.
honest with you.
But anyway, Thomas and Pierre are the other characters, and Thomas's backstory was pretty interesting too because he has a messed up scene where we could talk about him a little bit. But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, like some of those characters' stories started coming more clear what they were doing in the world. They were like copies within this Autoverse world, and then when Michael Durham gets what's her name, Maria, to join him on his billionaire wish to make these creatures in the Autoverse. That was pretty cool because he basically wanted to create this artificial world with these creatures to prove his dust theory that everything is conscious and we're all just kind of dust floating in the wind kind of thing. So I think that's where it kind of came online for me. What about you?
Well, I have to say, I was enjoying the book the whole time I read it, but the part where I really was like, oh, interesting. I don't fully get it, but I'm super intrigued was the sort of twist towards the third act of the book, where Maria finds out that the Paul Durham she's been dealing with this whole time is himself a copy.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say I didn't fully understand it, but I was intrigued was because I don't know how that happened. How did he feel? How was she dealing with a copy that was a physical? Because I thought copies only existed virtually.
Yeah. So he was a copy in the real world, right? Is that what it was?
That's what I gathered, but I wasn't 100% sure. Is that what you
that's what I
gathered?
thought too. That's what I thought too, but it was kind of hard. I was like, I think that's what's going on. Like, was he a hologram or something? But I think that's what was going on.
It couldn't have been a hologram because they made love.
Yes, they did that thing.
So unless that was somehow virtually.
What'd you think about that scene, by the way, where they end up like once she when she like gets her the creatures in the Autoverse, and then he feels the dust theory is proven after it runs for a little while. And then they end up having sex. Like, what did you think of that? I thought that was kind of odd. Like, I think he kind of forced the romance there at the end, but
it was odd, and I 100% agree. I don't think it was at all necessary. I feel like there was an era of entertainment and books, movies, shows where it's like we have to have a romance.
Yeah.
And then by that logic, at some point the characters have to, make
Yeah,
love.
sex or something.
And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, why? Like,
Yeah.
It doesn't
I feel
really
like
add
maybe-
anything to the story.
Yeah, maybe he's thinking like, oh, in the future, if my book is made into a movie, I gotta have this in there. So I don't know.
I
Maybe.
mean, the producers would just add that in. They would just throw that in anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Did you ever see A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and
I never saw that actually. I never saw that movie.
Oh, it's a great
I've
movie.
seen
Oh, you
clips,
never
seen
saw it,
clips.
huh?
Yeah. I've seen clips.
Tom Cruise and
Not Demi Moore. She's not in
Demi
it.
Moore. Yes, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
It was.
Tom Cruise and Demi Moore star in A Few Good Men, which is a military court drama from the early 90s, and it's a fantastic movie. If you've never seen it, you should see it. I read that they wanted to have a forced romance between Tom Cruise and Demi Moore's characters, but they ended up not doing it because the director said it doesn't add anything to the story. What's the point?
Yeah.
Like, they're just lawyers. And they're also going to be tired and yawning just like you, David, if you don't watch out.
I'm not that tired.
No, but But yeah,
It's the lo-fi I had on the background. That's what it was.
no, you're good. Uh, grab a coffee. Do you want to go grab a coffee really quick? Do you have coffee in your fridge, maybe?
No, I'm good. Actually, I had
Little
coffee
ice,
earlier. I
little
blame it
Red
now because I'm
Bull.
crashing. Yeah, I'm good.
But anyway, there was no need for them to have sex. I was saying make love because the internet is PG rated now. But anyway, I thought that was completely unnecessary. It didn't really
Yeah.
add anything to the story unless they were going to
Yeah.
like go this weird route where maybe Paul Durham wanted to get her pregnant or something, which I could see. But they
Yeah.
never did that. That was never part of
Yeah.
it. So, yeah. As far as the other characters go, I don't know. I like this book. I did. I don't want to. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the
Yeah.
book. I don't know that I enjoyed some of the side characters. Like I understand why they were there. Malcolm, Carter, Pierre, Kate, and others. There was I can't say this word. Solipsis Nation. The
Solipsistic.
Solipsis Nation.
Solipsistic. Okay.
And solipsist means, and I had to Google this. I don't know this offhand.
Okay.
Someone who holds to solipsism, a philosophical viewpoint asserting that only one's own mind is sure to exist, and that the
Yeah.
external world and other people are merely figments of their imagination.
Yeah,
their mental
solipsism is a
construct.
philosophy. Yeah, that
Solipsism.
you're like so like basically solipsism is like, oh, Adrian, your mind and your whatever you've experienced in your life is the only thing that's real.
Right.
And then for me, there's my own reality, my own perception, so that's real. So we can never know full reality because we're only experiencing our own. Each person's own unique experience is reality.
You know why I write off that theory though, that philosophy?
What's that?
Because all
Tell
the
us
great works
philosopher,
of
Adrian.
Shakespeare and Hemingway and all the great artists, Da Vinci
Yeah.
and inventors,
Right.
scientists.
Yeah.
I made all those guys up in my head and all the great works of them? No way. There's no way a dummy like me could have made all that up in my own mind and that's where they solely exist or whatever. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like, I'm not that smart. If I
Right,
was
right,
like,
right. But
highly
it's
intelligent.
yeah. But I think okay, so it's a balance. It's not saying that you wrote it, but it's sort of saying like there's an idea of Shakespeare that exists in like my mind and your mind, and that idea of Shakespeare is slightly different. It's very like highly subjective. Just like you can interpret anything very subjectively, very very slightly different, and
Yeah.
that is only the truth for you. So it's
Okay.
really I don't know. It's hard to say. It's
So
something
I
that you
couldn't have natively written Macbeth, is what you're saying.
no,
Okay.
it's yeah. So, but
makes
when you
more
read
sense.
Macbeth, then you're the only one that will read Macbeth through your eyes and your interpretation, and that means
Yeah.
something to you, and that's the story of Macbeth is the story of Macbeth for you. Just like
Gotcha,
Permutation
gotcha.
City, we're gonna have slightly different viewpoints on certain
Yeah.
things.
So now I better understand solipsism.
Sort of, yeah,
Yeah.
It's
So
weird.
let's talk about some of these side characters because
yeah,
I was trying to. This is a very intelligent book, by the way. I'm not a very
Yeah.
intelligent person, so I enjoyed it. And you know what? That's the
it's pretty
interesting
out there.
part
It's got
about
some
it.
amazing ideas.
It's got
yeah.
some big, smart
yeah.
ideas that I
This
didn't
will
fully
this will
grasp.
push you mentally a little bit. That's
Yeah.
the thing about sci-fi, which is a struggle sometimes, where it's like, oh, this is really pushing my mind right now. It's like so
I'd love
sometimes
to
you
see
need
this
to put
made as
down
a
and take a
movie.
moment. It would be
Yeah.
pretty cool actually. Yeah.
I would love to see it.
So,
Something into
what did
it.
you think of Thomas? Because Thomas was the one that had probably the most like dark backstory, where he ended up killing. We find out later on that he ends up killing like his, I think it was a girlfriend or a wife. I think it was a
Yeah,
girlfriend.
in Germany or something.
In Germany, yeah. So they were in a relationship and he ended up killing her. He just kind of like snapped one day and lost it and ends up like killing her.
Wasn't he one of the billionaires? Let's backtrack a little bit. Let's backtrack
Okay,
because
yeah.
Paul Durham promises this world to very wealthy people who want to live forever. So they pay him millions of dollars to be able to eventually be a part of this world. That's where the whole social class angle comes in. I believe Thomas is one of Paul Durham's clients, essentially. Right?
Yeah. He's like a billionaire, yes, or something.
I didn't understand his, like his character in the book and how it pertained to everything, other than just being Durham's client. I mean, can you fill me in on that? Because I didn't fully get it. I didn't fully grasp it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing, I think that's only revealed until later, because like I realize like after this book really comes to fruition, you have to read it for a while, like we talked about. Like it
Yeah.
takes a while to click in. But then I think with Thomas, his backstory is interesting because the question comes up. He basically wants to replay. He wants to make a copy of himself to replay him killing that Anna, because he wants to see like what would happen if I could replay that moment. and then like relive it and not have killed her. So he basically has this regret. So his character arc is kind of like this story of regret because in the Autoverse, then he replays that moment, and then we find out what happens if he didn't kill her. So he wants to like relive that moment. So like he's this wealthy person that has this deep regret about killing his girlfriend, his ex, and yeah. So for me, that was kind of the philosophical kind of idea, the theme of like, if you could replay a moment in your life, would you? If you have this dark past, this dark moment, would you?
Well, that's a great question.
Redo it, basically. So
One moment in your life, good or bad, doesn't have to be either,
yeah,
that you would replay if you could, David. That you would relive.
I could replay it, relive. Well, it's very personal.
One moment in your life that you could
probably
relive.
guess what it is, Adrian, but
I mean,
you probably know
it could be
something.
anything. It could
But
be you getting ice cream for the first time. I don't know.
if I could replay something,
Yeah, if you could relive
it probably
a
would be
moment from your life.
relive a moment, probably a decision. I don't know. I probably have to get back to you on that. That would be a good short we should do. Like maybe it'd be like what I get for breakfast this morning. I don't know.
Well,
When
I would hope
I
it
got
would be
Jack in the
something
Box
more
this morning.
substantial than that.
Yeah, more substantial. I don't know.
I,
Like,
I would I would relive the moment my son was born. I think the reason why is because everything was such a blur, as it probably would be when a child is. Like I don't know why,
yeah.
but it
Was that
such a.
hectic? Was that hectic for you when Monty was born?
It wasn't, it wasn't even so much hectic as it's just like I said, it was just a blur. Like I wish I could relive that moment just to really like take in
Yeah.
everything again and see him again and hold him for the first time again.
Yeah.
I saw a video the other day that made me kind of sad. The idea was you'll never keep any version of your child as they grow, right? Like you'll never get to keep the cute infant and the funny toddler and the so on and so on and so on.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's so true, right? Because obviously people grow up and then you eventually lose those those iterations, those permutations, David. If
Oh
you
yeah.
will.
Those changes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe for me, yeah. I mean, yours is gonna be more impactful because you're a dad. I don't have a kid, so.
Everything's
But
relative.
I think for me, it would just be like if I knew, like back in my college days, like if I knew how lucky I was at that time, I think I would have been more. I think now I look back on it, how easy I had it, and I think for me it would have been like, man, I appreciate what I had at that time.
Yeah.
Like
Oh.
the fact that I could choose a college and not be financially on the hook for that.
Right.
Just
That's a good
Solano and Sac State. That's why I went to college for. And I was like, I still enjoyed my college experience, but I think I would have been more like aware of like, oh man, I'm really lucky and fortunate. I wasn't like, you're in your 20s, you don't know. I mean,
That's a
too
good
young.
one. That's a good
So
one.
I was just be more aware of how lucky I was, I guess, to go to college and be able to have that opportunity.
That's the thing that comes with age is
Yeah.
realizing how good you used to have certain things in your past.
Yeah.
And how like you realize, oh, I took that for granted.
Yeah.
Believe me,
There
I'm
was a
the
lot
king
of
of
that.
taking things for granted. And,
Yeah.
and as I approach 40,
Yeah.
I'm like, I have to live every day like it's my last in a way because you're not gonna my kid is almost 8 years old,
Yeah.
and so one day he's gonna be a teenager and one day he's gonna be a grown man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like I have to. Everybody should probably live every not like it's your last, but you know what I mean. Like not take things for granted. So
Yeah. Even like as a quick another example of that, but like what we're doing now is really cool. I love like book clubs and everything. But like since I'm an English major, I did that in college. So I get to talk about books. Talked a lot about Hemingway and Fitzgerald and a lot of other authors. But just even talking about Shakespeare, we brought up Shakespeare earlier. But it's like even just having classes where I get to like sit down and like think deeply about Shakespeare was actually really like kind of cool. Like because you leave that environment and you're like, man, I wish I could do that more. That's why I like doing this podcast with you and just like having those opportunities. Like I miss book clubs. That's why doing this is cool.
Well, likewise, I didn't appreciate Shakespeare as much when I read him in high
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
Now as an adult, I'm like, you know what? Shakespeare really slaps, as the kids would say. It really slaps.
Yeah, Shakespeare's pretty cool. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Definitely.
But yeah, there's a lot of side characters in this. Tell me about Pier. Tell me your
Pier.
interpretation of Pier, because I
Like,
didn't really fully get his character either. Like I understood that he sort of like he somehow got into Permutation City, but like on the fringes of it, where he was like unnoticed by
yeah.
the other inhabitants or something. Am I getting that correctly? That's what I gathered from.
So I think from Pier, My guess is that he was always a copy. Like he was not an actual person. Is that
Okay.
right? I think he was always a copy. I don't think he was ever a biological person. I
Okay.
think that's my guess. But yeah, the first chapter we meet on Pier, and Kate is his, I guess, is his girlfriend. I think.
Yeah.
But Pier, like he actually like I don't know if you remember the first time we meet him, he actually like reaches into his chest and like pulls. I think he pulls his heart out or pulls like an organ out, and he literally like pulls parts of himself out, but he's still alive because he's a copy. And that's when you realize like oh he's just a copy. And but I think he was just a copy of a copy. I think he was always made in this universe.
So
And
yeah.
yeah, it was kind of interesting because he was definitely to me like the weakest. I would say him and Kate were probably the weakest. But I think Greg Egan just wanted a character that was like lived in this universe and born in this universe, and so he was basically used to like dying and being okay with death because he just like literally reaches in and like he would like harm himself sometimes, and he was just like used to it and like okay with it. So that's kind of the function he serves, I think.
So what I found was he's a copy, not a flesh and blood original. So you're
Yeah,
right about
yeah,
that. He
yeah.
was created from a person who joined the Solips. Gosh darn it, I can't say that word. The Solipsis Nation, a subculture of people who reject ordinary notions of reality. His personality reflects that philosophy. He is eccentric, playful, often unsettling, and has
Yeah.
a very different outlook on existence than other copies. His role is sorry. Pierre represents radical detachment from human concerns, where Maria clings to the Autoverse and Durham clings to the dust theory. Pierre floats outside those obsessions. He interacts with Durham and the other copies inside Permutation City, but always with an air of treating the whole situation like a game. His
Yeah.
presence is important because it tests the boundaries of what consciousness means when you know that you're just software. He embodies the idea that if reality is just math, maybe anything goes. So here's the thing, that angle is so interesting because isn't reality just math, right? Because think about it. When they discovered, was it Neptune or Uranus? I can't remember. It was one of those two. They couldn't see Neptune, but they
It was
saw
Neptune.
its
Yeah, it was Neptune.
gravitational effects on Uranus,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
that they and the I forget who it was. I'll have to look it up later.
yeah.
They did the math and they're like, oh yeah, there's another planet there. We'll call it Neptune. And then they looked with the telescope, and there it was, right where he said it would be based
Yeah.
on his math.
Matt, they predicted it. Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think
so
there's two
life is
mathematicians that
just
found it. Yeah.
everything is math, right? At the end of the
It
day.
can be. Yeah. I think math is a good description of reality. But yeah, I mean, yeah, that was pretty. Neptune was pretty cool that when they found
I
Neptune,
mean,
it was all
our
math.
entire space program has to run on that, right? Because they have to figure out, like, if you're going to send a shipment of whatever supplies to the International Space Station, you have to do the
Yeah.
math on how
Yep.
to get it there,
Yep. Well, now AI can do the
among
math.
many other things. What's that?
Now AI will just do the math for us. We could just have it,
Yeah. Well,
Newton and Einstein equations and
I
all
don't know
that.
if we should fully rely on AI for that sort
Probably
of thing
not.
just
Probably
yet,
not.
but I know some
But
people are
I think
definitely.
eventually it will. Maybe in the next 20 years. But
Yeah. But yeah,
yeah, yeah,
philosophically, that's an interesting angle. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Pure was interesting in that way, but for me, he was probably the weakest character. Yeah, I feel like maybe that's like a criticism too of the book. Like maybe if it was like a little bit shorter, because I feel like maybe the focus of Maria and Paul is like the best part, and clearly the focus of it. So
You know what would be great is a limited Netflix or streaming series, HBO series on this
yeah,
book,
you could do like a mini series on this.
because then every episode could explore all these different
Each
ideas
character.
more
Yeah, yeah,
fleshed out. Because a movie
yeah.
you only have like 90 or so minutes. A show that'd be great. Like I'm surprised this hasn't already been adapted. There's a lot of great ideas in here that
Yeah, I don't know if has he have any of his stuff, Greg Egan, because he's written a lot, and so I
I
was
don't
looking at
think
some of
so.
his. He's won a bunch of awards, and I
Has
was like,
Greg
he'll
Egan ever?
probably have one of his books at least become something, because I was like, it
Yeah,
was pretty
and
deep,
I think I mentioned at the beginning
This book's
this
pretty deep.
book. And by the way, he hasn't had any books turned into movies. This
Okay,
book was released in '94.
yeah,
I mean, this book is
pretty old.
31 years
30.
old.
Yeah,
And when I was reading it, and you tell me if you felt this, I was like, this could have been written yesterday. Like, this feels so modern for
it feels pretty modern.
what it is.
Yeah, yeah. It feels like it was written. Honestly, when you said 94, I kind of forgot that. I was like, oh yeah, I thought this was like 2010 or something, 2005. It feels very modern.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So anyway, um, so you were talking about earlier about the scene where Maria and Paul Durham have sex, and then
Yeah.
she wakes up as a copy as well.
She goes in as a copy to the Autoverse. Yeah.
So how the heck did that happen?
Oh wait,
He
so was
scanned
she a
her.
copy? So wait, was she a copy in the real world or a copy in the Autoverse?
And well, she wakes up in the Autoverse as
She
a
wakes up in the
copy,
Autoverse as a copy. Okay,
7,000
yeah, yeah.
years into the
Right, right.
future. And by the
Yeah.
way, how
There's
does
like a
time
future
work? Is
world.
it 7,000 years into the future outside of the VR world, or is it 7,000 years relative, inside of the VR world? I was a little hazy on that.
Yeah, that was kind of
I think it's
confusing.
7,000 years. No, it has to be in the real world, right? Because she talks about how everyone she ever knew was
Oh
dead
yeah, yeah,
and
everyone was
gone.
gone.
Right.
Right, right.
So
Yeah,
it's got to
yeah.
be literally
She was dealing with
7,000
that.
years into the
Hmm.
future.
Yeah,
What did you
yeah.
think about that? I mean, that was an interesting transition. And by
Yeah,
interesting, I mean
that
it
was a
was a little
pretty
abrupt.
that was a pretty big jump. Yeah, like that was pretty weird. But I think he wanted to he
Wrap it
probably
up.
did that just because. Yeah, but then he also wanted if you remember like the Autoverse. The cool thing at the end of the book was this Autoverse world is like it was kind of confusing, but it sounds like that world there was a world within the Autoverse that was like created by these Lambertians or something, and like that old world was coming to an end because if you remember like the billionaires that were now in this Autoverse world now had to decide if they wanted to go to this area, this Permutation City. They wanted to go to this area within the Autoverse that was protected and safe.
The TVC,
And
right? The virtual construct.
yeah, yes, something like that. And so like they have like this meeting and stuff like that because there's another world within that world that's coming to an end. That was
Right.
pretty confusing because like he threw a lot of ideas in there at the end. But yeah, what did you think of that, Adrian? I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like,
It felt like a multi-layered cake of virtual worlds within virtual worlds, like a Russian nesting doll. Is that what those are called? The Russian. But that turned out to be the big reveal, not the big reveal, but a reveal that Durham had, which was he wasn't just tinkering around with copies. He was constructing the TVC, the virtual construct, which
mm-hmm.
was supposed to be a massive cellular automaton universe, quote unquote.
Okay.
It's not just meant to be a simulation, but a self-consistent mathematical object. So by dust theory, it is real. But here's the thing that I didn't understand about that was when he says dust theory, is he talking about like literally just particles in the air that can hold a universe where people can live and stuff for indefinite amount of time, or is it literal dust, or is it something else? Like what's the
I think he
metaphysical
just calls it.
properties of this?
I think he just calls it the dust theory. It's kind of like the Big Bang, you know. It just becomes a cool name. So like, the dust theory is just a name for it.
Yeah.
But for me, it's just like that. Just that goes back to like our own mortality, like the dust theory that we're just like floating like dust, you know, and we're only here for a little while.
Yeah, because
Even his own artificial. What's interesting about that, even the own artificial world is also coming to an end. And so even that is dust, you know. So
yeah,
like everything has an endpoint, you know. I think that just adds to that for me in that world. So
yeah, and that's again, I was confused by this book, but I didn't hate it. I didn't dislike that I was confused. It's just a matter of me understanding it better because I'll be able to appreciate it better, you know.
yeah.
And when I looked up all these notes on it, it made after the fact it made more sense. But yeah, when
Hmm.
I was reading, it, I didn't fully understand like how many layers down are we going in this
Yeah, yeah.
simulation, which it
Hmm.
turns out to not really be a simulation,
Yeah.
right? Because it's part of the dust theory, the like you said,
Sort of, yeah. And then
sort of.
also, yeah, also, probably the big question for me at the end is when he gathers all these billionaires together, the rich people that are copies within this universe, and the Lambertians, they they basically so Maria, you know, successfully makes these creatures, and they successfully over thousands of years in this artificial world, they there's natural selection even with this in this world, which we could
Yeah,
talk about a little bit, how they naturally evolve. So she just put in the initial criteria for them, and then they naturally evolve and progress in the universe, and then they become more aware, and then they create their own physics and their own laws and their own rules. And if you remember, there's a point at the end of the book where the insect creatures, they're like their physics is very close to ours, like their gravity is the same and certain rules are the same, but there's I forget what there's something that's off in their physics, and I think it's like it's almost like this has been asked in a lot of other sci-fi's with artificial intelligence and robots and stuff like that. But the billionaires gather together to ask the question like, oh, should we tell them that we made them? You know, there's that idea of like, oh, should we tell them that we made them and that their universe is fake and that actually we're in a solar system? And so they want to like tell the Lambertians this thing, and they have a meeting to like discuss like should we tell them or not? Should we tell them our physics, nuclear physics, and all this stuff? And like I thought that was like a pretty heavy big idea, and I was like, what would the what would these creatures think about to know that humans made them and like that they come from another real world, and like I thought that was pretty fascinating. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. Like,
Yeah, it seems like he really left it open for all sorts of interpretation,
mhm.
and he also kind of like wrote a story that like there's so many directions. I mean, there's so many infinite amount of directions that this story could go. You know what I mean? But I guess at its core, it's more about like again, it's just about like what makes a person, you know? Because these copies, these inhabitants of this world are just as sentient and conscious of their existence as you and I, right? So that was my biggest takeaway from it. I some of the mechanics, like I said, were a little confusing until after
Yeah,
I read about
a
it
little bit.
later.
Yeah.
But I have to ask you, what did you think about the ending? Because I felt like the ending he kind of left it open for a lot of you
Um.
know potential
Yeah.
other
So
stories down the
yeah,
line.
I mean, the last chapter. Let's see.
It
So
ends with Permutation City
remind me what happens.
expanding.
If you have like a
Yeah.
if you have a synopsis of the end there, Adrian, if you want to read it or
So
add
Permutation City ends with the city/universe expanding, endlessly permuting itself and its inhabitants standing at the threshold of godlike powers of creation. Instead of final answers, Egan leaves the reader with a cosmic open door, copies remaking their own universe from dust. So it's just like a fractal pattern, right? Like if you zoom
yeah.
in, you can just zoom in infinitely, and you still see the same fractal pattern over and over. That's kind of how I visualized it in the end. You
So
have this fractal pattern universe. Go ahead.
yeah. So at the end, yeah. So like the TVC universe or whatever, like within the Autoverse, like the billionaires are safe. Correct? Is that what happens?
Yeah.
Correct me if
Well,
I'm wrong.
yeah.
Okay. But then that other part of the universe ended, and so a lot of people died. And I believe Paul Durham decided to end his copies. Correct? So he decided just to go to
Yeah.
like basically die, end his all his copies. But Maria continues on, right? So she goes to the safe zone, and so she continues on in this artificial world. What's interesting though, in the last chapter, which is like the last little, just like half a page, I actually thought it was pretty interesting because then she mentioned to Paul, she's like, oh, whatever happens in the past is like you can have the option to choose whatever life you want, and you can make a new like a consciousness for yourself. And so at the end, if you remember, Adrian, she actually has like a new job, so she's not even she's gonna help like rebuild this sewer main which burst or whatever. And
Yeah.
she talks about how her mom is gone and Paul's gone, and she's actually at the cemetery with Paul's body, and then she just continues on, and she's like now working in a sewer main, which she had never done before in her life. So I thought that was kind of a weird thing, but I kind of understood it to be like Maria had chosen this new path for herself, and now she chose a new life, you know. So she like consciously chose like I'm gonna choose a new life. I'm just gonna do this now. Like I'm leaving everything behind, you know. That's kind of how I took it. Is like talking about the dust theory. Now she chooses something new for herself, and she chooses to take on a new job, a new role. You know, she lets go of the past, kind of thing. I thought that was kind of cool at the end. That's kind of how I felt. But even though she's this artificial copy, she just chooses a new life for herself and just goes off and does that. You know. So
I have a list of uh, quotes from the book that I thought were
okay,
really
yeah, I have one quote
interesting.
too. That yeah, go ahead.
And the first one is a stranger in a crowd less than human just because you can't witness her inner life. That was good.
Yeah,
Right? Because, you
pretty good.
know, you go out in the world, you're driving on the street, you see hundreds of cars a day.
Yeah,
Each one of those cars, there's people in it. And each one of those
yeah,
people has, each one of the
it's
people in the
slightly
cars have
unique.
their own story, you know?
Yeah,
So that one really stood out to me. And there's some other
yeah.
more,
That one kind of connects with solipsism because like that everyone's reality is slightly different. You know,
yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
I like this one where I think it's Durham asks Maria, how does it feel to be 7,000 years old? And she says, that depends. On what? On how I want to feel. That was a good one.
Yeah,
Order my life. I'm nothing without you. Fragments of time, fragments of words, fragments of feelings. Make sense of me. Make me whole. I thought that was pretty good. Um, Now he was dust. To an outside observer, these 10 seconds had been ground up into 10,000 uncorrelated moments. Yet the pattern of his awareness remained perfectly intact. Somehow he found himself, assembled himself from these scrambled fragments. That's a good one. That's very sci-fi right there.
Yeah. Oh, I do like that too, because like there was like mentioned, yeah, I talked about symbol from fragments, so that connects to his dust theory, where like he talked about memory as well. Paul Durham brought this up a lot with conversations with Maria, but he talks about how like when you remember something, like you only remember like a moment or two, and then that goes in your consciousness, and then like as you age, then something else happens, then an important moment happens, and then that goes in your consciousness, and it kind of gets pieced together. So
Yeah.
all moments are pieced together like dust and fragments. That was pretty cool because I was like, that's kind of our experience of life in a way. Because like you talked about Adrian, how you could go back to see like Monty, born again, or like your son or whatever. But if you want to go back in time, you'll only remember certain moments. Like you're not going to remember every detail, Just like this book or just like anything, you don't remember every single thing. And our consciousness is kind of like that. Like you only remember bits and
Yeah.
pieces. So that's pretty
Yeah, it's
interesting.
called building core memories.
Yeah, yeah,
When
yeah.
you have a kid,
Yeah,
you
like
want to
Inside
build their
Out, like
core
core
memories.
memories. Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. The first time you went to Disneyland, your first kiss, your first girlfriend, your first time driving a car by yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously there's these
interesting.
milestones, but
Yeah.
greater than that even are just like all these core memories that you have throughout
Well,
your life.
yeah. Cool. I'm
Like
not
being
bored, by the
bored
way.
while recording a podcast.
I'm not bored. That was a
Oh,
yell of excitement. Are you kidding me? Come
I
on.
know. I'm just giving you a hard time. But I like
You have another quote?
you may have missed this one reference, David. I don't know if you missed. I earmarked my page where
Okay. What was it?
there's a reference in here. She said, "So Ptolemy was simply bad grammar,
Oh,
obvious
I just
nonsense,
saw this one.
double plus ungood,"
Yeah.
and they reached
I
Copernicus.
just saw that one. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
literally just saw
nice,
that quote again. Yeah, yeah. That's
nice
pretty
little
cool.
1984 reference right
1984.
there.
Yeah, that was great.
Um,
I bet you there's like a million other references too, because he also brings up a lot of different scientists like von Neumann and Ada Lovelace, others like Turing, like the Turing test. Yeah, pretty cool.
Why did
Yeah,
I
I just saw
earmark
that though.
this?
Double plus, I'm good. Yeah, that was cool. I
Okay,
have
here. Let me read another passage from the book.
sure.
This is a lot. I'm not going to go through the whole book,
Okay.
obviously.
Yeah.
The worst of it was, for all she knew, Hayden believed that she was a willing accomplice, and if Durham intended to remain silent, she'd have to clear her own name. How? First, she had to find out about the scam and untangle her role in it. She said, "What exactly is he promising these copies?" And then he says, "A refuge, a place where they'll be safe from any kind of backlash. Because they won't be connected to the outside world, no telecommunications, nothing to trace." He feeds them a long spiel about the coming dark age, when the unwashed masses will no longer put up with anything lorded over by rich immortals, and evil socialist governments will confiscate all the supercomputers for weather control. Um,
Evil
yeah,
social.
because that's the sales pitch that Durham gives his clients, right? And Maria's very like obviously skeptical of it, and at that point in the book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. What did you think about that? I mean, yeah, I don't know. What did you think about that whole thing? The false pretenses that she felt
Oh.
that Durham was selling this.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
mean he's just a businessman, so he's trying to make all that money, So like he probably wanted to, realistically he just wanted to prove his own theories, and he probably was interested in Maria's ability to make life in there. So he was selfish for his own reasons, but he was obviously a businessman at the same time. So I
yeah,
think he was also interested in having the different copies and seeing how they reacted. Because remember, he did it with his own self, so he obviously made copies of his own self many many times. So he wanted to see how people dealt with their own existence, artificial or not. So yeah,
yeah. I mean, those are the broad strokes of Permutation City. I think we really did the
I
work.
have I have a quote that I want
Please,
to add.
please,
This is
please.
about the dust theory, which is really cool.
Nice.
So there's a couple different quotes on page 130, but he says, "This is dust, all dust. This room, this moment, is scattered across the planet, scattered across 500 seconds or more, but it still holds itself together. Don't you see what that means?" And then there's a longer part here that hold on, I have to get my cat out of the way.
Is this the copy you have?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Also, we should talk about this real quick. The
I
cover.
love this cover.
You love the cover? I did not like this cover.
Really? 'Cause the
Was
original
not
cover doesn't
not a
look
fan.
as cool, I
Not a
thought.
fan.
I didn't mean to pin myself, sorry.
Here's my cat, by the way. My cat didn't like it either.
So, because it reminds me of a word cross puzzle. But why did you like it?
Crossword, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It reminds me of like a crossword puzzle or like a word search or something. And I was just like, what is this, a newspaper or is this a novel? Like, what is this? You know, like I don't know. I wanted like an image on there rather than just like I like the ideas because it also talks about the dust theory. So even the cover is like, oh, this is like little bits of dust. You know,
Yeah.
like
Oh.
everything is like dust. Everything is like little motes. You know, and it comes together to spell permutation, which is
Yeah.
cool. But I don't know. I just wanted an image. I wanted a character or like an artificial world on here. You know.
I like the minimalism of it. You know, that's what stood out to me was like, oh,
I know you're a
this
fan
looks
of
interesting.
minimalist
I
covers, so
am. I
yeah,
really am.
yeah. Yeah.
That's good
Um,
stuff.
but yeah,
What else you got?
I do want to add one extra quote here. So he says, "Imagine a universe entirely without structure, without shape, without connections, a cloud of microscopic events like fragments of space-time, except that there is no space or time. What characterizes one point in space for one instant? Just the values of the fundamental particle fields, just a handful of numbers. Now take away all notions of position, arrangement, order, and what's left? A cloud of random numbers. That's it. That's all there is. The cosmos has no shape at all, no such thing as time or distance, no physical laws, no cause and effect." There you go. Pretty cool. I like that quote a lot. That kind of summarizes his dust theory that like everything is random. And you talked about math too. How everything is math. So he talks a lot about numbers. Everything is just random numbers, and that's how our memory works. That's how our consciousness kind of works. So that was pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, and you know, it's such an interesting idea because if that is the case, you know, like what does it all mean, David? To
Yeah, I know.
not just being human, but existence in itself. What is it? What
Yeah,
is it?
yeah.
What's it
It's
all
pretty
for?
deep.
You know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm staring at a tree outside my window. I see a tree, but is it really a tree? Is it something else? Is it, you know what I mean? Like
Does
maybe
the
the tree
tree
in a
see
way is
you?
just as alive as
Could
any
be.
human being. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's really crazy is like, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of big ideas in here. So like, we're just scratching the surface with the book. But yeah, it's crazy to think about that. The fact that a tree has all these cells, just like we have cells. So then the question becomes like, obviously, a tree does not have neurons. It does not have a brain, but it's got cells. Is there some other kind of intelligence working there?
Right.
Like maybe. There's definitely something to it. Um, Also, it's really trippy if you think about like, I had this thought the other day, but like the human body is what, like 70% water or something like
Yeah.
that, and our planet is 70% water. I was like, ooh, that's interesting. I was like, is our planet like planet consciousness? Is our planet alive? Like the human body itself comes from Earth, and like it's pretty crazy to think about. Like the more you learn about science, the more you learn everything's connected in a way. So it's just
And
fascinating.
you know what's interesting as well is that most of the water on Earth came from outside sources. You know, they think that most of it came from a comet that crashed here billions of years
Yeah,
ago,
maybe more of the
and
hydrogen and oxygen. Yeah.
yeah, and it just sort of left all this water behind. What do you think about that theory?
You're talking more like panspermia. That's more like about the seeding of life, like the nucleic acids and stuff. Are you talking about that, like where how life started? That's called panspermia. Or are you talking about
Yeah, pretty
water?
much.
Okay, because water came from the plants and the trees, Adrian. Those trees that you're looking at outside.
Well,
Like
that's one source, but
oxygen. All the
a lot of
oxygen.
it also came from other cosmic sources. Is the idea? So you know,
Like,
I
okay.
don't know how much. I feel like a good amount of it, but
I mean, the
there's
chemical
no way to know how
reactions.
much.
Yeah, the chemical reactions and the nucleic acids. That's a theory. I don't know about hydrogen and oxygen though. That came
Well,
from
and not
fire.
just one specific like meteor comet. We're talking many, many
Yeah,
over
yeah, the bombardment. Yeah,
the
yeah,
bombardment of the
right.
Earth.
Right.
But anyway,
Yeah,
that's Permutation City. I highly recommend this book
yeah,
for anybody who likes
really good, really
sci-fi
good.
and sort of big philosophical ideas of conscious and sentience and like I said, like what does it mean to be human, right? And I
What
feel
are
like
we?
it's almost very relevant in a way with
Yeah, because
the
we have
rise
AI.
of AI,
Yeah,
and there are people out there literally marrying their AI chatbots, and that's just the beginning. I think I think that's just the beginning
not
of
you.
something.
Hopefully, Adrian.
Well, no, but
Okay,
well,
sorry.
no, I'm kidding. But
Maybe.
no, but seriously, like that is just the beginning trend of something bigger in years to
But yeah,
come. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And eventually, if AI ever gets to the point where it's actually like, where it actually can pass the Turing test or whatever. And it's like, are future AIs going to have rights? Are they going to have the same rights as, actual flesh and blood?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Possibly.
I think it erases that sort of classic question. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Even like I heard Mark Zuckerberg is actually building. He's actually building like this giant AI facility in Louisiana. I don't know if you heard about that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I was
I
like,
heard
oh man, we're gonna
some
have
rumblings
giant
about it.
AI plants now, and like I guess AI also takes a ton of energy and resources. So I'm
Yeah.
like
It's
we'll
terrible for
probably
the
have
environment.
yeah
Those
like
data centers you're talking about, they're horrible for
yeah
the environment.
yeah like it's just gonna take a lot of like electricity and who knows what else. But yeah, it's a good thing, bad thing, because obviously there's no stopping AI and you know this artificial worlds that we're going to build. So that's going to be in the future. Question is, how much energy is it going to take? These billionaires, do they really have the best interests of humanity at heart? Probably not. But it's going to happen. So I guess we're going to live through it, Adrian. So we'll see. We'll see if our life reflects Permutation City or not. Will we be able to make copies of ourselves? You know, in the artificial world. We're kind of doing that now in a way. If you think about like our own podcast, and I have my Professor Pixel channel, so it's like I was thinking that it's like, is this just an artificial, like when we're all gone, or people are just gonna have like these memories of us in this artificial world called the internet, and like, will they make copies of copies of copies of ourselves? Like it's kind of crazy to think about.
You'd think that one would easily be immortalized on the internet forever, but like the internet is just data that lives on servers or computers,
Yeah.
all over the place, and
Yeah.
that can easily be destroyed. Data can be destroyed. Computers can be destroyed.
Yeah.
Data centers can be.
Maybe
You
something
know what I
else
mean?
will
So
replace it.
who knows? 100
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
just 100 years from now,
Yeah.
how much of the internet will still be around?
Yeah.
You know
Maybe something else will take its place. Yeah. We'll see.
exactly. So yeah, my final thoughts on Permutation City. It left me with this sort of unsettling idea that reality may not be physical but mathematical, and that immortality, identity, and even meaning are only as stable as the patterns that sustain them. It's a story that doesn't give comfort, but it does give possibility. If everything is dust, then so is creation. And I think that's the most interesting takeaway that I can say about this book. So,
Yeah.
what are your final thoughts, David? Would
Yeah.
you recommend this book?
Final thoughts. I definitely recommend it. Just be warned. It is very deep, very philosophical. Greg Egan has like many fantastic ideas in here, and that's really what it's a great idea book. And his dust theory is probably the best thing about this book. The fact that like, is everything conscious? Are we all just like little motes of dust in this existence, just like these copies in this artificial world? It also brings up great questions of, would you make a copy of yourself, or would you not, or would you just want to, like Maria's mom, just accept your own fate, kind of thing. Lots of big questions here. It reminded me a lot of Philip K. Dick, who we're actually going to read one of his books next.
Yeah.
But a really great idea book, as well as I felt executed pretty well as well. Even though at the beginning it's a little slow and hard to follow at first, I think it really comes to fruition, and very philosophical, very deep. Yeah, if you like sci-fi, check it out. So, and it should be made into a movie as well.
There was a Black Mirror episode
Okay.
about uploading your
Here's copies.
consciousness to
Yeah.
a computer server. I don't remember the name of it. I'd have to look it up, but
Yeah.
I can always add that in the show notes. But yeah, there's the Black Mirror episode that touches.
Also,
on
there
this.
was an Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Sixth Day. Remember The Sixth
The
Day?
Sixth Day, yeah.
The copies and they
And
cloned themselves.
there was an Amazon show that was kind of decent called Upload. Did you ever watch Upload?
I did not watch Upload. No.
It was basically a show about a virtual world that people live
Okay.
in.
Okay.
That you can transfer your consciousness to. I watched the first season, and it like ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, and I never kept watching. But it was interesting, so I recommend that. All right, David, is there anything you want? And by the way, Greg Egan is an Australian writer. He's from Perth, Australia, considered one of the leading figures of hard science fiction. He has a math and computer science background, which I think really influenced this story. You can tell. He's a very private person who like avoids any sort of press and public appearances. Long before most authors, Egan built a website for himself at gregegan.net, filled with supplemental essays, frequently asked questions, and even interactive math, physics, visualizations to accompany his novels. I'll have to check that out for this book.
Yeah.
No TV or movie deals. He's reportedly turned down adaptation offers for his books. There's your answer.
Really?
He values the integrity of his ideas over the compromises of Hollywood. Well,
Huh.
we'll see about that. He's won some major awards
Interesting.
the John W. Campbell Memorial Award for Permutation City, the Hugo Award for Oceanic, and several Ditmar Awards. Recurring themes: identity, consciousness, posthumanism, artificial life, quantum mechanics, and cosmology, always treated with vigorous scientific logic. So there you go. There's some quick facts about Greg Egan. But yeah, David, speaking of a fellow writer here who recently wrote a book called Project Red Planet. You know, do you want to plug your book? Anything else you're working on?
Sure, yeah. Check out my book, Project Red Planet, sci-fi satire. Any fans of Hitchhiker's Guide would probably enjoy it. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's awesome. If you like the moon landing hoax, you might like my book because it's all about a Mars hoax, potentially.
Yeah.
Very happy to finish that book. I'm still writing other children's books too, or stories as well. So I'm doing that on my channel, Professor Pixel. And yeah, watch my channel for science content and for fun stuff. So.
And in that book, David drops some truth bombs.
Logic bombs. Yeah. People know logic bombs.
I don't know what this means, but it's like you're dropping.
Yeah. I think my book is more easily understandable, but I have a ton of fun ideas in there as well. Not as, I don't know. I think some of my ideas are deep, but they're so satirical and so over the top that, you know, I don't know. When I came up with them, they're still very deep to me, but of course they're done in a very playful, fun way. So, you know, it's definitely not a hard sci-fi like this book at all. So
no.
Check that. Yeah.
And that's fine. That's the way you tell stories, you know? Yeah. Everybody has their own.
That's right. That's my own unique dust consciousness. So there you go.
Exactly, David. All right. Well, you can find me, as I said at the beginning of the show, at Boots Too Big and Books Too Big. I'm on Fable, by the way. If you haven't already joined Fable, it's a book tracking app with a social media angle. It's essentially like, think of it like Blue Sky or even like Substack or whatever, but for books. You can start book clubs on there. You can have entire posts and threads about any given book, and you can track the books you're reading and all that good stuff as well. So it's way better than Goodreads. It's you know, it's like Storygraph in the sense of tracking what you're reading and whatnot, but it's with a much bigger social media thing, you know, to it. Okay. So check me out on there. Books Too Big. Yeah, I review all the books I finished in the last couple months on there. And I also have a podcast, the Never Seen It podcast. It's a movie podcast where we talk movies that some of us haven't seen and why we never watched them, and we kind of break that down. And it's good topics of conversation. David, you sort of joined us recently by accident.
Yeah, that was fun.
But
I might join on that podcast for real at some point. Maybe we'll pick a movie or something.
Yeah, Never Seen It podcast, neverseenitpodcast.com. Follow this show, the Book Brothers Podcast. Now
also on Spotify,
YouTube and Spotify. Yes.
Yeah.
Follow us on Spotify. You can watch our lovely faces or just listen to our lovely voices on there. But yeah, either way, we're on YouTube and Spotify, so check us out. Any last words, David?
Go write your own books, and we'll see you next time for more talks on books. And next time we're gonna do Philip K. Dick, the Penultimate Truth. That'll be our next book.
Penultimate Truth. Up next on the Book Brothers Podcast.